Okay, live, coming at you from stinky basement in Pacoima or whatever. I decided I'm going to have a new intro for all my things. I didn't do the weekend shirts this week photo in the community menu because I didn't hardly wear that many shirts that weren't already in the videos anyway. But I'm going to talk about those shirts as pertaining to my recent video, which of course was episode 334 about the OCBD Oxford button-down cloth and the chambray. The different, they're not all from LL Bean, but I was kind of trying to do a head-to-head challenge with this one's a polyester blend. This one is a cotton, but coated with the wrinkle-free or whatever. I also had just a regular sport shirt, and then a lighter weight, breezy one that I wore briefly. Whereas that one and this one I didn't wear, and blah blah blah. This one, again, having the heavier, thicker fabric, a little too warm for most of this week. But then next week, it's supposed to cool down again. So we'll see how it goes. So I won't need this one again as much, whereas I will need probably this one the most still. But obviously, trying to get as much wear before the temperature turns too warm. I don't know how much wear and tear they're going to show. This was an older shirt that I had kind of shelved. I had mostly used it for tailoring purposes, so I was trying to keep it good because the cuffs are about equal in the pattern and whatnot. So when I was going to get jackets hemmed or trimmed in the sleeves, this was a very good shirt to use, better than like a solid shirt, just for measurement purposes, because you might have one arm that's longer than the other, but I don't have one that's significantly longer that the shirt sleeves need to be a different length. So having the jacket length being about the same. But since I have a bunch of jackets that fit pretty well now, I'm not as worried about it. So I figured I might as well throw this back into the rotation and get some actual use out of it while the weather is, permitting. Because again, this one's a little bit too warm, and I didn't even look at. See, like this one, not quite as good, although maybe you could still use this for the same purposes. It's close, but there's not quite the same pattern to try and do that with. And a striped shirt, of course, unless you have the cuffs going horizontal and the sleeves going vertical with the stripes, a vertical striped shirt would be, almost completely pointless. So even if you only like to wear solid shirts, a plaid or some kind of, shirt like that with a pattern that is uniform can be useful. Of course, with pants, sometimes the pants will have a texture and you kind of try and make it match, but most of the time with pants, even if your legs aren't that much different, you're still using your shoes more for the measurement. So it gets a little bit trickier with pants with a pattern than jackets and shirts with a pattern, maybe. But I think with a jacket with a pattern, you're going to try and get it trimmed as close to looking the same as opposed to worrying about the length. Shirt, on the other hand, I think usually you're worried more about the length. So it just depends on how long your arm is compared to your other arm, I suppose. But again, I didn't wear any of these shirts enough in the last week to, do a real head-to-head apart from just showing them for a minute. I was thinking, I had come across a bunch of old memories. I'll do that as much as I can read in a minute. The actual reset, well, spoiler alert, there's not going to be very much change from last month to this month. So if you watched the Hobbit one, you'll already know most of what I was wearing or meant to wear. The pilot motif, the Indiana Jones motif, the military motif. So we're at the mountain motif instead of the cowboy motif, but now we're going to switch it up and put the cowboy back in as much as you can do it in warmer weather and take out the pilot stuff. And so some of this stuff I consider kind of more pilot than anything else, just because it's kind of office casual in a way that I don't necessarily wear as much of the year as I would like because of the warm temperatures. Same as tweed jackets, which is again why I have a bunch and don't get to use them as much. But and I was going to maybe do like a Marines tribute for a couple weeks or something, and then I kind of didn't really start that yet. But I don't know. Like I said, when I say military, I don't necessarily mean wearing vintage retro uniforms. As much as cargo pants, they don't have to be camo or even green or anything. And I don't usually wear, again, the blue if I'm not doing much of a nautical thing, but since I was wearing blue shirts, the blue pants kind of came back, even though these are just casual bummy pants that, I wouldn't wear out and about all that often. But the gray ones are new, and they already got a hole in the pocket. That was annoying from the wash. But they're the exact same pants, just newer. These ones were pretty beat up. So what I was saying though is I've noticed this kind of YouTube double standard. I've gathered some new viewers, I guess, but still most of you just wanted to see my boot content and couldn't bother with this stuff. But yeah, there's all these women that just go on and on about their clothes or their makeup, and they just get thousands and thousands of views. I don't know, or they can turn themselves into a vampire or a woodland creature or a fairy sprite or something. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not making my own clothes typically. I don't know what, but these other women are watching this stuff like their life depends upon it. Whereas I have to be all factual and get right to the point, I guess. So I'm trying. But boots, maybe hats. What else can I throw at the wall and hope it sticks and attract any much views? I don't know. The boots. Speaking of boots, briefly, I did. Well, I'm not going to talk about boots specifically right now because my footwear is not, again, going to specifically change. Although if I want to throw in cowboy boots, Western riding boots into the mix, then that option is officially open using my dice of fate rules or whatever. And I haven't done a boot talk video lately. I don't have that much to do on boot talk that won't be in the next episode of the 8 Boots Challenge next week anyway. So but I did get the new Thursday President models, so I'm gonna be using those more than some of the other ones that I listed in the menu or the official contest. It's like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to be wearing heavy duty boots as much as I'm going to be wearing those, so I'll figure out which ones to swap out. Okay, so movies. Okay, this is about movies. Skipping ahead. Sorry, I'm just scrolling my notes here real quick because I didn't put these all in order after I added some other junk. Okay, hat bar. I didn't do a hat talk recently. I don't know how much I can do an update of the hats. I mean, hats don't show wear and tear the same way as like jeans do in the short term. So it might be a few months before I do a proper hat talk video again. But I've done plenty of hat videos recently, so chances are you haven't seen all of them or whatever. No buy year. I spent a bunch of money on the car. Oh. What I did was open the wrong document. Okay, that's maybe why I'm not seeing what I'm scrolling looking for. Okay, sorry about that. Let me go ahead and open the correct document for the one person still left after the other one clocked out. Okay, here we go. So I may have read, yeah, like I said, I may have read much of this before, but if there's new people tuning in, they might not have seen that video, whatever it was, a year ago or 3 years ago or whatever. And so if you blundered onto here, and if you're the one person who's seen them all before, I guess, like I said, a lot of these kind of videos, I get pretty low views, so I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, I own way too many plaid, sport, and camp shirts. Again, I have short sleeve ones too. They're not even coming out of the garage yet because it's still been mostly cooler weather, and I like to wear long sleeve shirts as much as possible to not get sunburned. Hence the cool breezy ones and the linen ones and such. But I do own short sleeve shirts. I do wear short sleeve shirts. I'm wearing a polo shirt right now, which is also not like the total norm, especially if I'm going out and about. I'd rather have a more button down thing, but whatever. Yeah, like I said, it's warm. And like I said, I won't or can't become the all white shirt guy instantly or overnight. Or like I said, I prefer not always put patterns to solids, and I do have solid shirts, and I've been trying to phase out some of the plaid stuff. Like this is not necessarily a very attractive plaid, but the material I just like. So when I get a fabric that I enjoy wearing, even if the shirt itself is kind of mediocre crap in some ways, like the buttons don't stay buttoned, or it wrinkles a lot and the pockets don't, I don't want to iron something like this that's ultra casual. The collar is really flimsy. You couldn't really wear this with a necktie very presentably. I mean, you just get away with it, but it's not designed for that purpose. But so wearing, a more, I mean, like I said, this is a little closer to almost a dress shirt. It does have collar stays. So for those of you who don't know what collar stays are and how to, take this out before you do your laundry and then put them back in. Sometimes you forget, and then you might get it all bent or whatever. I don't think it'll like particularly damage the shirt as much as, you might lose one or two of them. If it breaks or whatever. A lot of times they'll come with a couple extra ones along with a couple extra buttons. That sort of thing. And I don't have a lot of short sleeve shirts that have collar stays. I might have a couple, but I don't think it's the norm. But yeah, I do have 4 years ago, I was saying I have or maybe 5, I was saying I have a newfound appreciation for solids, but nowhere near in full effect as always. So yeah, not much has changed in those years, because again, these shirts don't all just wear out immediately. I've seen a lot of people complain about fast fashion stuff not going the distance. I think that's more true with women's clothing still, though, which has always had that element of fast fashion to it, because women's trends turn over more quickly than men's. And then again, something like this with a 40% poly blend, it's almost bulletproof. But it'll get raggedy around maybe the collar and the cuffs eventually. Something about British soldiers dyeing their white uniform clothes with tea in Africa or India. Khaki becomes standard issue anyway. So yes, I do wear khaki more than white. Although maybe white looks better on skinny guys, or definitely, if you don't want to do a wet t-shirt contest kind of effect on a really warm day. But yeah, when it's that part of the year when it's the dog days, I still reserve the white shirts for that time, September, October-ish, but I still usually wear tan more. After Labor Day, I'll wear white more often than some other conventions schmention, right? So this one woman, this was reactions to her videos without going back and watching that video again from like 4 years ago or something. And I had forgotten about her, and then I started watching her again recently, and that was when I did that book review. So if you haven't seen that yet, The Art of Spending Money, episode 338, 14 whole views so far. But that was a book that she recommended that I thought was kind of an odd recommendation for her. But you can check that out. So point one, if you color coordinate, it's a lot easier. Just don't collect every single color. Like, guys, seriously, get rid of all that red clothing stuff. Two, I can't figure out why a place called Old Navy has pretty much literally no clothes I want, like Navy theme nautical stuff. I don't know who shops in those places and why. I don't think I've ever really shopped at, I don't think I've ever actually shopped at the Gap, but there's some other ones that I go in there once in a while and find something-ish, but most of the time I shop online. Three, most people don't want to dress like me. We've already established this. Yes, I know tucking in shirts is hard to remember and such. I've pretty much always worn tan pants since I was a child. Why I feel compelled this, I don't know. Oh, watching this video, I guess. Still trying to get people to hire me as a style advisor or something, since nobody seems to need a screenwriter or a drummer or my paintings. Seriously, while I'm on the subject, instead of just calling people lazy slobs or whatever, apart from the purge, which some of these people do these purges more regularly and still end up with way too many clothes that they don't wear somehow. I don't do the purges in the same way they do them. I try to do this more with sales than donations. My biggest problem is actually buying for the future and then not wearing the clothes before they have become too small. This has largely something to do with seasonal sales when I already know I probably have a surplus of some items, but I'm sure I will want them again. Yeah, so her main thing is breaking these habits, and so I was addressing that. So yeah, don't do that, or at least not as much as I do, or she used to before she stopped or whatever. Pick a number of how many of each items you will likely require in a given period or season, and then aim for it or something is my advice, restating my advice. If you don't know, I have a playlist called Lifestyle Strategies, all about seasonal colors and cost per wear, and I already did videos covering that, but this is probably in one of those videos already. More than my monthly clothing rundowns. But as I've complained almost every year for about 15 years already, and again, this was several years, so more like over 20 years, most of the good companies still discontinue the items I want the most, and would be more glad if I stocked up, more glad that I had stocked up if I could still fit in my medium shirts or my 36 waist pants, which I've sold pretty much all the 36 waist pants now, but I still have some 38s lying around, and a couple of them fit because they're the low-rise ones, so they kind of go below my muffin a little bit. I can use them. Others are just, I keep waiting for my neighbor to show up at my yard sales because he usually buys a couple pairs. I literally thought I was done buying clothes several times in the past decade already, only to find that I wasn't. But of course, all the minimalists say, get rid of everything, you can always buy it again. But as I've discussed many times, it's hard to find the exact same thing, the exact same quality, the exact same fit. Paul Frederick changed the fit of their jackets. And the last two I had to send back, and I haven't bought anything from them since, pretty much. But yeah, it's usually easier to buy more than to make more. So there's that if you're interested in making your own clothing, I suppose. It's a thing, but not a thing for me. Then skipping over to Gentleman's Gazette video, I guess dressing like a cartoon character would be an oversimplification for almost anybody, but I do agree with the theme concept a bit, hence the pilot thing and the Indiana Jones thing. But the overlapping theme elements are actually sometimes more problematic, like accessories and two completely different themes will hurt your brain most of the time. Like, again, the cowboy thing and the nautical thing don't work at all together, pretty much ever. A smidge redundant and extreme. Okay. Indiana Jones or Safari Al does not blend well with World War II Navy enlisted outfit uniforms either, for example. But Aussie Cowboy and Safari Al don't blend as well as one would think either. Safari Al was an old Calvin and Hobbes trope or theme or whatever. Trope's the wrong word. Irish fisherman and preppy boat guy are both nautical, but that's about it. Preppy guy can wear an Irish sweater in the cold weather, though. Yippee. I did a whole video on the nautical side of that. Was it in that playlist? It might have been in the other. Oh, I did a whole nautical necessities playlist though that would be there. I don't remember if it's going to take too long to scroll that playlist. Let's go here and see. Last. I did the Capitan Iron Snail Sweater overview reaction 267. Holidays, preppy style, some of that 245. Oh, here we go. 208 Fisherman Core. That was the one where I really talked about other people's videos covering that topic. And there's other ones you can go back in that playlist. Okay. But preppy does not wear a pea coat with a polo shirt. So yes, while this could be considered nautical style, but also could be in some of the other categories because it's just a casual shirt. It's not super nautical overall in theme and motif. Indy is too stylized to just be military or safari, but classic safari, is actually more rugged, elegant than the canvas barn coat or redneck camo hunting outfits. The devil's in the details after all. Okay. Let's see, then another gal's videos. I haven't been hiking 7 miles a day anymore, so I don't grind through the nether region of army pants every couple weeks or months still lately. But I don't know what job or life changes might come up in the near future, so tossing out a bunch of stuff willy-nilly that I can't afford to replace or maybe find the same quality, etc. Okay, same thing. But yeah, I declare pretty often about not really wishing to be dressed in recycled water bottles that somehow are supposedly the same as silk or linen in cost nowadays. LL Bean, looking at you again still. They seem to want to put stretch in almost everything now, which I don't really care for. I mentioned pretty often about not wanting to be jeans guy anymore, but still must keep a few pairs around to match with that one shirt or whatever. Something like this can look good with jeans, although navy khakis would work as well. Or even tan khakis, I guess. I don't like putting khaki with blue as much as some people. We've covered this. I don't wear kilts every single day. Right. And it's too hot for tweed and sweaters. The weather here, yeah. What she talked about for younger people, the styles most appeal, and then you get to the age where you pretty much buy the styles you want without having to justify it to your friends or your family. Apart from the snarky kilt comments, this hasn't been a thing. Okay. Oh yeah, every now and then you meet, some gal who you've known a scarce minute who thinks they can dress you down and convince you why they hate your clothes and why you should too. Yeah. Preach it to somebody else. If you're that superficial, I don't want to date you anyway. I do agree that purge may be easier with a girlfriend because she can have, or wife, because she can have her opinion which outfits she likes seeing on you, but then again, sometimes they turn into the domineering tyrant who commands that you remove all such clothing that she deems unfit to associate with you, and then you're back to that girl that you met at the bar who, everything's an argument, right? I never quite had this exact problem. Back when I was in my slob grunge days, I was dating girls who kind of liked the way that looked for some reason. So I had heard tales of gals who threw away fave shirts and such, mostly only experienced with my mom when I was young, growing up, who treated my old shirts as her God-given dust rags. But it was also a gag in the Singles movie that maybe resonated with guys who lived with girlfriends, but most of my clothes at that time disintegrated on their own because I'd buy them at thrift stores and they were already worn out. I used to patch things, but that's largely a waste of time because they often just rip in the next spot over. I still have a couple pairs of army shorts and such like where I've tried to do that. Yeah, pretty much got over that. Let's see, I can already do Indiana Jones or World War II Jungle or Desert Warrior or Safari. but these are less fantasy self and more grounded than the historical stuff she was talking about, but also less elegant and more utilitarian. But I also think that trying to combine these elements works better for, again, a movie character than real life sometimes. Just wearing the same thing all the time, you know, most people will kind of like, does that guy own another pair of shoes or pants? Yeah, we'll skip that. Okay. Style choice red flags can go both ways as far as dating a girl who wears clunky combat boots and motorcycle jacket. It would flash Daria in my head and cross her off, right? Not always, but. Oh, I met this one woman in a festival thing one time, street fair thing one time, and she was kind of the hippie the first night, and then I thought that looked good, you know, on her, and then the next night she was totally dressed more like the puke in the car gal from 40-Year-Old Virgin, and it was kind of like, okay, now you're disco chick, like, or raver chick or whatever that. It was really like two different personalities all of a sudden in the same weekend. I try not to give people that much whiplash, although I do have a couple different wardrobe styles, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't know which personality I was going to get if I got a date with her, you know, from Sunday to Tuesday. What would change? I don't know. And if she thought I was boring, maybe she thought I was boring or something anyway. I was wearing something similar both nights, I'm sure. Let's see. The younger guys seem to fall into their own categories now that I don't even try to understand or approximate. The vintage Borscht guy makes his own clothes is nobody I meet on the regular, whereas hoodies and basketball shorts might have some different outfit for when they go out, but maybe not. Yeah. Let's see. I did list some categorical like previously that most men could follow that excludes any such costume wear that goes beyond what could be considered normal vintage and bought online or in thrift stores. Again, we're still talking about buying, not making or even getting them made custom, but buying with a purpose, the intentionality thing. Purchase with a purpose or a porpoise, tee, I don't know. I was making a joke for myself. A young man who enjoyed seeing me in a traditionally dressed up outfit, unexpected compliments from them, even though the older guys in their tank tops and backwards hats were trying to give me, you know, more what for it, where's the funeral kind of thing. I don't know. But they were just looking for attention. Yeah. At least here, she doesn't use the phrase capsule wardrobe, which we can agree is mostly for service industry gals living in overpriced apartments after wasting time on worthless college degrees and such. I hesitate to use the word poor since many of them still get funds from mommy or daddy and daddy, or find a guy to cover what they can sponge off in earlier video. Okay, we're not going to go into all that. They still have money for concerts and wine and restaurants and travel and blah, blah, blah. Not my demographic. Okay. But again, they're fast fashion to more durable trend as well. Just not as much as menswear, I guess. But they like sheer materials and feminine looks, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Lots of gals wear jeans now, and their jeans probably last about the same amount of time as a man's jeans, depending on how much you wash them, how much outdoor stuff you do in them. Okay. Skip. Yes, I do all this inventory and similar questioning monthly for at least 5 years already. So again, this is, I've been at like over a decade. So I guess it's interesting to see someone younger reaching similar conclusions, but many won't be of this mindset no matter how many self-help videos they watch. And the seasons in California mostly just mess with you because it's been well over 30 years what I got all excited for my new school clothes. Oh, back when I was young, like high school and college or whatever. And then it's 90 degrees and I get out all the shorts and put away all the sweaters and flannel shirts for summer in June is still cold sometimes. I complain about this every single year, so those of you just tuning in, don't be surprised that summer is still over a month away and I'm sweating now, but I'm supposed to be cool again tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but Wednesday. So yeah, everything when I wrote this around the same time of year. Let's see. Her sort of revelation about how there are seasonal variations on a theme, which resonates with what I'm trying to do, but can't really achieve in quite this state. Because yeah, I don't live in New England or whatever. But there is some distinction between beach bum clothing and yuppie boat guy clothing. Again, the nautical list that I started after on as inspired by my own thoughts here. At odds with my own self a bit, like Jimmy Buffett versus Mr. Howell's nephew. I own plenty of both, but I don't have a boat. But beach bum is more on the same scale as Indiana Jones than regatta guy for, I guess, 80s villain guy. Early summer should be celebrated more, and late summer it's too hot, and so you can just be more lazy and not worry about it. Autumn can bring rebirth as long as it's in the low 80s for the temperature or something. Sigh. Okay, again, maybe not autumn so much as the week after Thanksgiving, right before the other holiday, and I complain about this every year too. It's not my fault autumn here is about 2.5 weeks, but I have enough autumn clothing for 8.5 months. Okay. I also have enough summer clothes for at least 6. So it should all work out in the next couple years if I manage to grind through them all, which I obviously, again, still haven't. LL Bean shirts won't fit if they say regular, but then they also say slightly fitted. Yeah, I hope they phase that out soon. It's one or the other. And I ended up with a bunch of that slightly fitted stuff that doesn't work just because I liked the pattern or the color or something. I firmly believe in the seasonal wardrobe and the shift in colors and whatnot. And this makes quite a difference in attitude or something. I include this kind of like a superstition, like don't wear a baseball hat when it's hockey season, etc. Your team colors. If anyone wish, and I did videos about baseball, football, and hockey themed clothing already last year. Gentleman's Gazette, because he literally tries to choose timeless pieces from each period that work well together harmoniously, that you couldn't necessarily put the finger on it, but it's still not stuff from pre-20th century, like vintage Birch and all that. Okay, so that went on a little bit, but not terrible. And then, of course, the boycott Tinder, not a joke. Demand they clean house with employees who don't have your proper romantic interests at heart. Which is worse, they are incompetent or corrupt. The jury's still out, I guess. But if they have toxic employees and they're not interested in getting rid of them, then their company is just actively committing consumer fraud, as Matt Walsh and others have said. I don't know. None of them have brought a class action suit. I had something I was going to read about that, but I don't know where I put it. But it doesn't matter because I did videos about that already too, and not sure where that went. It should have been right here. Where? I don't have a ton of extra stupid papers laying around. As always, I activated the buy me a coffee thing. This is a guy's recommendation about socks, but I haven't tried those socks. Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know what I was going to say, but it's probably typed up in that other document, so I'll read it later on another video. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, You can go ahead and put them in the, oh, I lost my viewer at some point. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section. This is a little bit shorter than I thought it might be, so hopefully not too tedious and redundant. Like I said, I was kind of reading stuff that I know I've read before in some of these menus, but it just goes to the philosophy of the channel and why I do these videos and all that. And so, okay, I'll wrap it up.